Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado, and this is my buddy Puccini who keeps me company in the craft room. And I have just now started working with some of the new material from the catalog, and I have a pretty card for you. Actually, I've got two versions of it, and I think it'll be kind of a fun one and not difficult. So let's just get started. Okay, here is the first version of my card, and I'm going to change it up actually quite a bit because it's awfully dark. And I also, once I did the inside, I liked this color scheme so much better that I decided to add a piece of this lighter Balmy Blue on the front and then do the stamping over it so you could actually see it a little bit better. So what it takes to make this card is I have a thick Whisper white base that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then I have two pieces. This piece I made a little bit bigger, and I'm going to reduce the size. So you need two pieces of Night of Navy that are 4 by 5 1/4, and two pieces of Balmy Blue, which are 3 3/4 by 5, so that we can have a little bit more of the visibility. Then I have a piece of this designer series paper, and this paper comes from the Regency Park 6 by 6 designer series paper pack, and I decided on a couple of different ones here. This one has more blue in it, this one which is a little bit lighter. So then you need a scrap of Soft Succulent, and I did my tag out of Soft Succulent, and you need enough to cut some of these little flowers in order to make the design, and some of this Night of Navy what is it called? Bordered ribbon. And the stamp set and the die set I'm using the dies from Sentimental Park, and I am using, so this one is this, and then these little flowers, there's several of them here, and they cut out quite a few in one pass. And then on the sentiment, I used the Thanks from Petal Park. It's a mega suite that has two stamp sets and two die sets with it, or a stamp set and a die set for the Sentimental Park. And this Petal Park has a punch that punches out flowers, and the flowers it punches out are like this, and it punches out 3 flowers and a leaf. And that is the stamp and die sets that I'm using in this. So when I decided to change this, I needed to put down this piece on here, but I have to do some stamping. And I did use the stamp set from this Petal Park stamp set. I used also this scheme of leaves and flowers. I guess there's a few flowers on there. And so what I did was, let me bring a piece of scratch paper out here and get my Night of Navy ink and my stamp. It's a pretty good size stamp, and it creates, you can use this as two-step stamping to stamp this part first and then stamp this over to get a different kind of detail. Here's one of my earlier tries at this, and I decided ultimately that I didn't care for it much, but I used these same little cutout flowers here to do almost like an embossing look on here, and I used evening evergreen, and I decided you can't see the designer series paper, and I didn't like the way this came out, but that's when you overstamp that, that's what that looks like. And so I've fiddled with this card all day long and I think I finally come up with a design that I like. So I'm going to use my Night of Navy ink and this stamp set, and I'm just going to use this part of the leaf pattern here to just get some images in the Night of Navy on here. And this is one of those where I think, since this is going to be in the middle, I'm going to park this and do some stamping with this Night of Navy right here, because right underneath here it won't show much. And I want to get some of this relief stamped on here. And I think it's just real pretty. And you can always pick up and put a little piece in a spot here. And same thing with up here in the corner. And you'll notice I'm kind of flipping this back and forth to get some different kind of images. But I think that's going to be sufficient, because by the time we put this across here and some ribbon, you won't be able to see any of the things that are misstamped or have a wide open kind of thing. Now this is a little troublesome for me down here, and so what I'm going to do is just grab a post-it note here and put it across here, and I'm going to get some ink on this little flower right here, or this little leaf set, and I'm just going to stamp that one in there, and there, that fills that in nicely. And there we go. So that's what I'm doing. Now then, once that is stamped, then that can go on to the Night of Navy piece. I'm going to move this out of the way for the moment. So this one, I'm just going to add my seal to the back of this one, and I'm going to attach that to my Night of Navy. And then I'm going to add my designer series paper right across the middle here. And I didn't really raise anything on this because it's kind of busy with all of the stuff going on. So I just laid this one down across this so that it went, this piece is 4 inches by 2 inches, so that it goes all the way across the Night of Navy from one end to the other. And I'm going to put that pretty much in the center. Then I've got a couple pieces of this ribbon, Night of Navy ribbon, and I am going to add that, put a little bit of dot runner on this one, just so it'll stay put on the card, and put this mostly on about halfway on the designer series paper there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of tape on the back and wrap that around on the back side. There we go. All right, I have another piece cut exactly the same length, and this piece is about 5 inches long because the piece I'm covering is 4 inches. And there it is. I'm going to put some dot runner on that, and I've got linked below the Amazon link to get this Tombow dot runner and the refills. I've got Stampin' Up! Products and then non-Stampin' Up! Products, and if you go on my blog, I've got a whole section called crafty things. So there are things that I use all the time in my videos, but they're not necessarily Stampin' Up!, and Stampin' Up! Doesn't carry them. So there's some links there, and it does help me if you click on one of those links and go get some pieces. I'm adding to that all the time as I figure out what I'm using that's not Stampin' Up! Okay, so there we go. That piece is all ready now. Now that piece is ready to go on the front of my card. And I'm just going to add some seal to the back of it and put this in place on the front of my card. And I think it's kind of nice that it has that white to pick up these flowers kind of in the middle. Although I do like this pattern with the blue just as well. Okay, so that's that. And now I have a little bow to put on the front. So I'm going to tie, a little bow here on the front. Doesn't have to be very big. And it's good to have my bow in place before I add my flowers so I know right where to put them. And there we go. I've got a little bow there. So I'm just going to trim my edges here and trim them coming back this way. And I'm going to adhere this little bow right down here with a couple of glue dots. All right, I'm going to add that one right down here, just like that. Okay, now we can come back to our little flowers here. And for this, a dot runner I think is better because it has a tendency only to stick where it's supposed to instead of putting a big gloppy glue piece across there. And so I'm going to add this one. And these are done in this Soft Succulent. There's Soft Succulent and Night of Navy and Balmy Blue and all different colors in here, including Evening Evergreen. And so I did these flowers out of the Soft Succulent because I thought that looked pretty nice. So I'm going to add one of these along the top here. And I did, I think, one pass of these, and I got all of these flowers out of that one pass. So it's pretty easy. And the same thing with the punch. If you wanted to do the punch version, you get a handful, 3 flowers with every punch. So it works out pretty well. Okay, so I'm going to add, let's see, a smaller one and then a very small one to the bottom here. And as is usually the case, these done in odd numbers kind of look the best, and I think I put 5 of these on here. And I have this little tiny one here that I'm going to add to that. And I think they're pretty fun. And then to pick up the yellow, in this suite also comes this adhesive back Milky Dots. And it's got the Night of Navy dots, and then it's got this kind of a gold color. And I thought that would be fun to pick up the yellow. So I gave these flowers yellow centers. And I think I did 3 of these. 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom. And so it kind of trying to pick up all of the various colors here and get this to come across. There we go. All right. You also need a little piece of white that is 7/8 of an inch by 2 inches, and I stamped the thanks stamp on this, and there's my thanks. It's a little off center here, but that fits right on the top of this. It looks like I could trim this side down just a hair to be a little closer to the other edge. So, such a terrible time doing straight. All right, so I'm going to put this thanks on the middle there of that. This fancier label here and get that adhered to the center of this pretty tag. And I will raise that up on dimensionals and put this right in here. I think it's kind of fun how it picks up the greens, and then I did the stamping in Night of Navy. So there is the front of the card done. Then for the inside of the card, I have another piece that is 4 by 5 1/4 in the navy, and then I have another piece of the Balmy Blue, and that one is going to get a little stamping in the Night of Navy to match the front of the card. So here we go. I managed to get ink all over myself. So what I did was I took this piece down here, get lots of nice ink on it, and do that right along this edge. Here, little on, little off of the card. And I think that's real pretty. And then I'm going to use this other end to get one grouping that looks like it's coming down from the top of the card. And there we go. Isn't that pretty? Now I can attach this piece, and you can add some ribbon to this if you choose, or add a couple of these little flowers. That might be kind of fun. Well, maybe we'll just do it. I've got a couple of them left over here, so we might as well use them up. Get a little bit of Tombow on there. And I've got one more, and that way I'll use them all up. And there we've got a couple of little flowers to go on the inside of our card. And you could add a little piece of designer series paper. You could add another sentiment on here if you'd like. There's quite a few sentiments in the second stamp set here. Okay, so there we go. Just like that. And maybe because these little dots are flat, I will add a little gold dot to the center of that flower. Maybe to both of them, because they kind of have a tendency to fade in there, so using a couple of them makes them stand out a little bit. And there we go. Now on the front here, I could add a couple of those gold dots other than on the flower, maybe one right up here in the corner, and then to make it odd numbers again, add another one maybe off in here. There we go. All right. Now this piece is all ready to go on the inside of the card, and we can add that, and there we have our finished card. And I think I like it better with the lighter background. When I did the inside, I thought, oh, that's so pretty, and the front of the original one was so dark. So I have actually 3 versions of this that I have used to kind of finally come up with my final design, which is this one, which this label is on here kind of crooked. Let's see if I can fix that. That's a little bit better. Okay, so there's my 3 versions, and on this I did stamp the Night of Navy tone on tone on the back of this, just to add a little bit of texture. So you'll have to tell me which of these you like better. I have a tendency to think I like this one the best. And they all have some of this designer series paper and various versions of these flowers added to different places on the card. And this one, I just did a whole background of it, and I kind of liked the look of that, but I ultimately did not like this piece. I thought it didn't work well with the concept. But there we go. That is my first attempt at using the Regency Park Mega Suite, and that includes Petal Park and Sentimental Park. And that one has dies for one of the stamp set and a punch for the others. Here's that park, Petal Park and Petal Park punch, and it cuts out 3 flowers and a leaf. And there's a stamp there that you can use to give this some dimension before you cut them out. So there we go. That is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And let's see, there is a join offer going now while celebration is on. So the join offer is $175 worth of product for, there's a chance to get the mini embossing machine. And with the mini embossing machine, it's $129, and you get the mini embossing machine plus $175 worth of product for $129. Really a very, very good deal. And so that's it for that kind of stuff. And let's see, I think that's it for me. I will be back soon with more cards, more tips, and more projects. Bye.